My name is Emily and this is my channel Books for Life, and today I'm here to talk to you about the books that I read during the month of January. So I'm in my new classroom, so I am in front of my fantasy shelves in my classroom, so you can see some of the books that I have available to my students, and I will be adding to my collection today because the books that I read during the month of January will then go on these shelves behind. I read 6 books during the month of January. 4 of them were actual physical books, and then 2 of them were audiobooks, and all of them were fantasy. So I'm going to tell you about the books that I read in chronological order. So the first book that I started this month was Outlander, and that was an audiobook, and it was 32 hours long. I absolutely loved it. I listened to the entire thing and wanted more, so I'm definitely going to continue reading the series. I gave this a 5 out of 5. If you are unfamiliar with the story, this is about a young woman, Claire. The war has just ended and she's on holiday with her husband to try to get to know each other again, and she gets sent back in time. She has to live, I think it's during the 1700s, and she is, it's like 1745. It's like 200 years in the past, and she has to live as an English woman in Scotland, and the British have invaded Scotland, so they're not too happy with the English right now, and so she's trying to survive, and it is amazing. There's an amazing romance in it, and I absolutely loved it. I'm currently watching the show on Stars right now too, and so I do plan on continuing the series. The next book that I read was Heartless, and this is the Queen of Hearts origin story, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This was my first official physical read of 2019, and I loved it. I loved what she did. I loved all the connections to the characters that I know and love. I wanted a happy ending though, and I know that she couldn't give that to me because it is an origin story of a villain, but that's what I wanted. I didn't want it to end the way that it had to end, but what can you do? I really did enjoy this. I thought she made some interesting choices, like with the 3 sisters in the well, and then how she transformed the looking glass maze. I thought that was really creative, and I had never heard of that before, so if it actually is in conjunction with another twist, that I was unfamiliar with it, and I just really enjoyed that. I also loved the character Jest that she brought into it. I thought he was a nice touch, but right from the beginning I was curious as to how she became the Queen of Hearts. I thought that was a bit of a dramatic shift from who she was to who she becomes, and so in the beginning I had a really hard time figuring out if she was actually supposed to be the Queen of Hearts or if there was another character that would be introduced, and so I do feel like it was a bit traumatic from who she was to who she becomes, but overall I really enjoyed the story. So I did all of the things that I planned on doing this month. I told you that I would read the Queen of Hearts. I told you that I would pick a book from the book boxes that I've gotten that I haven't read, and I also told you that between the Witcher series or the Wretched of Morwood series, I would pick one of those and begin reading. So I'm really proud of myself. I also told you I'd read The Wicked King, which I did. So I hit all of the things that I set out to do during the month of January, and I thought that that was excellent. And so the book that I picked from a book box that I haven't read yet was The Shadow of the Fox, and I got this in my October 2018 Owl Crate box, and I loved it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I only gave this 4 out of 5 stars because there was 2 things that I didn't love. I'm really happy that she put a glossary in the back because I needed it. There were so many words that I was just completely unfamiliar with, and so I really needed this glossary as a reference, and so that was just something that just took away from it a little bit from me, just because I had to constantly refer to the back multiple times even for the same word because I just could not remember. So for me, and not that this was any fault of the book, I'm really glad that the glossary was in the back and so I didn't have to look it up, but there were some things I had to look up too. But that just made it not challenging, but I just couldn't fly through it as quickly as I wanted because I was constantly referring to the back. The other thing that I did not love is that she constantly changed the perspective. So there was no rhyme or reason to how the character's perspective changed, whose character we were head we were in. So I had to read the first page and a half before figuring out which character's head we were in, and then go back and reread that. It wasn't every other chapter. It was just random and as she wanted the story to unfold, and then sometimes she threw in a different character completely, and I just found that really confusing, and there was no change in font, or there was no name at the top. There was nothing to indicate whose mind we were in. And I thought that took away from it a little bit. But other than that, I absolutely love this story. I'm definitely going to continue reading this series. I don't know when the next book will come out, but I'm definitely going to be reading it. So then I read The Wicked King by Holly Black, and this surpassed my expectations. I loved this one more than I loved The Cruel Prince. Oh, there are so many things that I did not see coming. I gave this a 5 out of 5, and this is definitely my favorite read of January. I don't want to give too much away, but this does pick up where The Cruel Prince left off, and I just loved it. The last physical book that I read was The Wretched of Merwood by Jeff Wheeler. So this is the book that I decided to pick up out of those two series, and I really enjoyed it. I'm giving this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think that the world is really interesting. They start each chapter with like this little bit of like background information from this man who works at the Abbey, and so it's not the Abbey that takes place in this book, it's another one, and that's how a lot of the world building is done, which I did appreciate because it gave me background information that I wouldn't have had for the characters. But on the other side, at times I didn't want to read it. I just wanted to keep going with the plot. I didn't want to have that break in the action. I just wanted to move forward, and I had to like force myself sometimes to just read it, and then I would actually have to refer back to it sometimes because something would happen later on. I'd be like, oh wait, he said something about that, and then go back. So it did help really enhance the world. I thought this was a really interesting concept. So in this world, there are different like casts of people, and if you are a wretched, that means that you are an orphan that no one has claimed whatsoever. So you could be an orphan but have connections to your family, which doesn't make you a wretched. A wretched has no connection to a family whatsoever. They are given the last name of like their job. So Leah is our main character, and she's Leah Cook because she's a cook in the Abbey. And so if you're a hunter, you like one of the characters is, his name is John Hunter. He doesn't get an actual like surname, it's just based on your profession, and that also labels you as a wretched. And so you are the lowest of the low, and you're forced to live a life of servitude. And so Leah is given an opportunity to help a maiden who is kind of like a knight in this world. So this opportunity gives her a chance to kind of prove who she is and what she can do and her abilities, and she takes this opportunity and goes with it. And she's a really strong female character. The one thing I didn't like is I didn't like how young she was. She's only 13 in the book, and I really wish that they had made her older. I think that would have made her at least a little bit more like relatable, and I think some of the things that she didn't strike me as what a 13-year-old would do, and so I think she would have been better like 17 or 18. I am going to continue with this series. I've already picked up the second book. I haven't started it yet, but I do plan on reading that. So the last book that I read was Circe by Madeline Miller, and this was actually my last audiobook, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I am actually teaching a Greek mythology class right now to my seniors, and so I loved having all of the connections to those Greek stories that I love, and I thought that was really cool. But I didn't have any connection to Circe. Like, I did not care what happened to her. I didn't care when she got banished. I didn't care if anything really happened. I just didn't have that connection. I don't know. I felt like something was missing there. Typically, you know, you fall in love with the main character and you are always looking out for them and you want the best for them, but you know, she could have been zapped by Zeus's lightning bolt and I wouldn't have cared. So I felt like that was missing. There needed to be more there to make her more relatable or more likable. And not that she was unlikable, there was just, I don't know, something was missing. But I really did like how Madeline Miller took all of those stories and made them part of it. Now I'm actually curious, like, was Circe there for when the Minotaur was born? Did Odysseus actually stop on her island? Because I've read the Odyssey and I don't remember that being part of the story, so I'd have to go back and reread it. So I am curious as to how much Madeline Miller added and how much was actually like part of the original stories. And so I really did enjoy it. I'm definitely going to read the Song of Achilles. I've actually already put it on audio loan, so hopefully I'll get it soon because I did really enjoy it. Yeah, so those are all the books that I read. I feel like I did a really good job this month. I started a new job, and so reading kind of took a backseat sometimes, although there were a few nights that I could not sleep, so I did read quite a bit those nights. But yeah, overall I think this was a great reading month, and if you read any of the books that I read, please let me know in the comments below, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll be back with more bookish videos soon. Keep reading!